It's always the rain. Not the thunder. Not the lightning. Just the rain. Because rain hides footsteps. It covers sounds. It makes strangers look harmless. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true-feeling rainy night horror stories. A cancelled delivery order. A neighbor who wasn't who she claimed to be. And a child on a swing who shouldn't have been there. So before you listen, lock your doors. Check the back seat of your car. And if someone knocks while it's storming, make sure you know who it really is. Let's begin. Story 1, The Swing in the Rain. It was a typical rainy night in Milford. The kind of night where the streets are empty and the only sounds are rain tapping on pavement and water rushing through storm drains. I'm 42, a single dad. My 10-year-old daughter, Emily, was asleep upstairs. And I had one last responsibility before bed. Max. My golden retriever hates being cooped up. Rain or not, he needs his nightly walk. It was 11:30 p.m. when I zipped up my rain jacket, clipped on his leash, and stepped outside. The rain wasn't a violent storm. Just steady. Heavy enough to soak you if you stood still. We lived near a small park by the creek. Nothing special, swings, a slide, a couple of benches. During heavy rain, the creek swells and turns dark and fast. As we approached the park, Max slowed. Then he stopped. Through the rain and dim streetlight glow, I saw it. One of the swings was moving. Not gently swaying. Swinging. Back and forth. High. And sitting on it was a small figure in a hooded raincoat. Facing away from me. A kid. Maybe 8 or 9 years old. Alone. In the pouring rain. My first thought was anger. Where are this kid's parents? Hey! I called out. You okay over there? No answer. The swing kept moving. Max began whining softly. Not barking. Just a low, uneasy sound. I stepped closer, shoes sinking slightly into wet grass. Hey, it's late. You shouldn't be out here. The swing slowed. Slowly. Creaking. The figure's feet dragged in the mud too. Stop it. Then it spoke. Can you push me? The voice was small. Almost normal. But flat. Like it didn't quite understand how kids talk. I hesitated. Every instinct told me something wasn't right. Where are your parents? I asked. No response. Are you lost? The hooded head tilted slightly. Push me. Max suddenly barked. Loud. Aggressive. I'd never heard him bark like that at a child. Okay, I said carefully, why don't we find your house instead? The swing creaked again. Slowly, the figure turned its head. But not its body. Just the head. Too far. Further than it should. The hood shifted slightly. And I realized something. There was no face. Not in the way there should be. Just darkness under the hood. Deep. Empty shadow. The rain seemed to get louder. Max backed up, pulling hard on the leash. Push me, it whispered again. But this time the voice sounded closer. Not from the swing. From behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. When I looked back at the swing. It was empty. Still moving. Back and forth. Back and forth. Max was now growling low, teeth bared toward the playground. Then I heard it. The creak. Right behind me. Slow. Metal chains shifting under weight. I didn't turn slowly this time. I whipped around. The second swing, the one right behind where I was standing, was moving. And someone was sitting on it. Close enough that their wet shoe brushed my pant leg. The hood was inches from my face. I couldn't see inside it. But I felt something. Cold air pouring out from where a face should be. Max lunged forward, barking wildly. The leash snapped tight between us. The figure didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Then it leaned forward. Too close. And whispered. "You left her alone." My blood froze. "Emily." I didn't think. I ran. Max bolted with me, splashing through puddles as I sprinted toward home. I fumbled my keys at the door, nearly dropping them. The house was dark and silent. Too silent. I burst inside. "Emily!" I shouted. No answer. I ran. Upstairs, heart slamming against my ribs. Her bedroom door was open. The window was open. Rain blowing inside. Curtains whipping. But Emily was asleep in her bed. Exactly as I left her. I stood there shaking, trying to steady my breathing. It was just stress. Imagination. The storm. Max stood at the doorway, still growling softly. Not at the window. At the hallway behind me. I slowly turned. At the end of the hallway, near the staircase, water pooled on the wooden floor. Dripping. Like someone had just stood there. Watching. Then the hallway light flickered. And went out. The next morning, I went back to the park. Sun was out. Grass wet but calm. Both swings were still. But in the mud beneath one of them were two sets of footprints. One small. And one adult-sized. Barefoot. Leading away from the swing. And stopping halfway across the field. As if whoever made them simply vanished. I still walk Max at night. But we don't go near the park anymore. And sometimes, when the rain hits just right and the wind pushes against the house, I hear the faint creak of metal chains. Moving. Back and forth. Like someone is still waiting for a push. Story 2, The Woman in Mrs. Hargrove's Coat. It was a Thursday night in late October. Rain hammered against my apartment windows in thick sheets, and thunder rolled low across the sky. The power had flickered twice already. I live in a quiet suburban complex just outside Chicago. Nothing fancy. 3 floors. Mostly families and elderly residents. I'm 32, a nurse at the local hospital, and a single mom to my 7-year-old daughter, Hina. She was asleep in her room after a long day of school. I had just finished washing dishes when the knocking started. Not polite knocking. Frantic. Urgent. Desperate. At first, I thought it was the wind. But then it came again, fast and hard. My heart started racing. I stepped quietly to the door and looked through the peephole. Mrs. Hargrove. My elderly neighbor from across the hall. She was in her 70s. Lived alone since her husband passed. Sweet but frail. She had Parkinson's, her hands always trembled when she held a cup of tea. Now she stood outside, soaked to the bone. Gray hair plastered to her face. Coat dripping. She was mouthing something. Help. Mrs. Hargrove. I called through the door. What's wrong? My power's out, dear, she said shakily. It's flooding. Please, let me in. I hesitated. But I couldn't leave an old woman out in a storm. I unlocked the chain and opened the door slightly. She pushed inside faster than I expected. Oh, thank you, Ev, she said. She always called me Ev instead of Eva. Water pooled at her feet. I'll get you a towel, I said. When I handed it to her, I noticed something. Her hands. They were steady. Completely steady. No tremor. I brushed it off. Maybe the cold helped. She sat on my couch, back straight. Too straight. She usually slouched because of her bad back. You want tea? I asked. Chamomile would be lovely. Her voice sounded right. But something about it felt rehearsed. As the kettle boiled, I glanced at her again. Her coat looked slightly too big. Like it didn't sit right. On her shoulders. How'd you get so wet? I asked. The hallway window was open, she muttered. Our hallway windows don't open. They're sealed shut. A small chill crept up my spine. She sipped her tea. Still no shaking. Her nails were clean, too. Mrs. Hargrove gardened constantly. There was always dirt under them. We sat in silence while rain pounded the building. Then she said something she'd never said before. You handle things alone very well, Ev. No man around. Must be tough. She'd never talked like that. She usually complained about her arthritis or the noisy upstairs neighbors. At 10 p.m., she went to the bathroom. While she was gone, my phone rang. It was Mr. Patel, our building manager. Eva, he said urgently. We have an emergency. Mrs. Hargrove was found unconscious in her apartment about 2 hours ago. Paramedics just took her to the hospital. My blood ran cold. What? Security footage shows someone wearing her coat knocking on doors. It's not her. Tall. Thin. Likely stole her coat after breaking in. Police are on the way. Lock your door. I slowly turned toward my living room. She was standing there. Watching me. Her expression had changed. No softness. No confusion. Just calculation. Everything okay, dear? She asked. My voice barely worked. Who are you? Her smile dropped. Smart girl, she said quietly. But too late. I ran toward Hina's room. She grabbed my arm. Her grip was iron. No tremors. No weakness. I bit her hand and she hissed, pulling away. I slammed Hina's bedroom door shut and locked it. Hina, hide under the bed. I whispered urgently. The doorknob rattled. Open up, Ev, she said sweetly from the other side. I just need to stay dry. I shoved the dresser against the door. Thunder crashed outside, masking the noise. The banging got harder. The frame cracked slightly. Then, silence. Complete silence. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, sirens. Police lights flashed through the curtains. Voices shouted in the hallway. I moved the dresser and opened the door. The living room was empty. Front door unlocked. She had slipped out during the chaos. Police later confirmed she was a known burglar. She targeted elderly residents during storms, assaulted them, stole clothing and keys, and used disguises to get into neighboring apartments. Mrs. Hargrove survived. Barely. The woman had knocked on multiple doors that night. Mine was the first that opened. Hina and I stayed with my sister for a week. I installed extra locks. A door camera. A security bar. But now, every time it rains and someone knocks unexpectedly, I don't move right away. I check the peephole twice. And I look at the hands. Because sometimes, the smallest detail, the absence of a tremor, is the only warning you get. Story 3: The Cancelled Order. I started doing food delivery because it was simple. Drive. Pick up food. Drop it off. Get paid. I did it after my day job to make extra cash. Most nights felt harmless. I had my routine: full tank, phone mounted on the dash, cheap rain jacket in the trunk, insulated bag for the food. I drove a 2008 Corolla with a stubborn check engine light and wipers that squeaked across the windshield. That night it rained hard. The kind of rain that turned streets into mirrors. I was about to head home when the app pinged. Rain bonus. Bigger payout. One last order. Pickup was from a burger place near the highway. Nearly empty. One bored kid at the counter handed me the stapled paper bag and a drink. The address was on the outskirts of town. Half-built houses. Fewer streetlights. Long driveways. Big trees leaning over the road. The last turn curved between tall pines. No sidewalks. Just mailbox numbers glowing in my headlights. The house sat sideways behind trees. Chain-link fence. Gate open. Porch light flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay alive. I left the engine running and ran up with the food. I knocked. No answer. Then I heard it. A shuffle. A soft clink. Like a chain brushing a doorknob. Delivery. Order for Daniel. Silence. The porch light flickered again. I waited, then set the bag down, took a photo, and texted, "Food at your door. Enjoy." As I turned away, I felt it. That childish feeling of being watched. I jogged back to my car and pulled away. 100 yards down the road, my phone buzzed. Customer. Thanks, but I canceled that order hours ago. Who's at my door? My stomach dropped. I typed back at a red light. I just left it on your porch. Address on file. 3 dots blinked. That's not my address anymore. I moved last month. I'm watching my doorbell feed. Someone's knocking at my door right now. Is that you? My blood went cold. If he moved, whose house did I just go to? And who was inside? That's when I smelled it. Wet. Dirt. Old water. Like a flooded basement. It wasn't there before. It was coming from behind me. I looked into the rearview mirror. At first, just the back seat. Then the darkness shifted. A darker shape among the shadows. Water dripping. Leaning forward slowly between the seats. I didn't scream. I didn't break. Something inside me went very still. I kept driving. The gas station 2 miles ahead glowed like an island. Bright white canopy lights cutting through rain. The figure leaned closer. Cool breath touched the back of my neck. I whispered, "I'm pulling into the station." No response. I swung into the gas station fast, threw it in park, unlocked the doors, and bolted into the store. "There's someone in my car," I told the cashier. We all stared out through the glass. My driver's door hung open. Interior light glowing. The back seat was dark. No one got out. A man in a yellow raincoat grabbed a flashlight and approached carefully. He shone it into the back seat. Nothing. But then the beam caught something else. For long streaks of fresh mud smeared down the back of my driver's seat. Like fingers had dragged there. Ending near my shoulder blade. Police arrived. They searched the car. Nothing. No one. Just wet fabric and that smell of pond water. Under the seat, the next day, I found a thin plastic line. Cut on one end. The customer sent me a doorbell screenshot. A hooded figure knocking at his new address. Not me. Same rain. Same night. A week later, another image. Same figure. 3:12 a.m. Closer to the camera. Watching. I still deliver sometimes. But I lock my doors every time. And before I drive, I always check the back seat. Even when it hasn't rained. Because sometimes, when the road is dark and quiet, I swear the air behind me feels different. Like someone is leaning forward. Just enough. Rain has a way of washing things away. The feeling that someone was closer than they should have been. Subscribe for more stories that follow you home.